Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another Empires and Puzzles video, and today I've got what I think is a very interesting video for you that, if you saw my community post in advance of this, is not something that I've seen anybody talking about. It's something I've thought about for a while and have wanted to know the answer to, so I did my best job at trying to demonstrate that. You can see we'll be in Excel here for part of the day, part of the video, as I demonstrate what I think I have found to be true. I'm not a mathematician by any means, so it's possible that I have made some mistakes here, but essentially what I want to demonstrate is how many levels are you actually gaining per adding emblems, adding limit breaks, mainly limit break 1 and limit break 2. What I mean by that is when they introduced the first limit break, they showed, adding the new pink chevron as an additional ascension, and then they added 5 levels. So you're going from, for a 5-star, level 80 to level 85. And I remember looking at the stats gained per level and thinking, these are not equivalent to 1 level. These are stats much higher than you typically gain per level. So they're weighting it differently. My theory was it's gonna generate less outrage if they're just showing, it's only 5 more levels. You can add a little boost to your heroes, 5 more levels. But stat-wise, it's more significant than that. So I've always wondered, what is the actual level equivalent as you add these things? And so I picked a particular hero to explore this with, and that is Jove. If you're getting frustrated with Empires and Puzzles, let me just say that Gemstone Legends probably has the things you're looking for. They have a mercy system that guarantees a legendary hero after a certain amount of pulls, and we're not just talking about a weak legendary hero from a pre-selected list. They have a wish list that you can put any hero in the game on to boost your chances of pulling that specific hero. They take into account player feedback, and many of the changes that have gone live in the game were based on player feedback or were player suggestions to begin with. They're even going to give you a free $50 starter bonus just for downloading from one of the links in the description. If the earlier stuff somehow wasn't enough, you can be a hero in wars even just using rare heroes only. They have tons of events that allow you to earn free 10 pulls and other very usable high value stuff. Gemstone Legends really has a lot going for it, so come check it out if you're curious to see why tens of thousands of people have left Empires and Puzzles to come play. I'll explain how I got to this, or how I made these calculations, all that kind of stuff. If anyone has any corrections or thinks I did something wrong, please do let me know, because again, I'm not a mathematician, so I did this to the best of my understanding. And I figured while we're at it, let's do it with emblems as well. So you can see in the upper left, we're working with Jove. We've got the stats for level 480. We've got the stats for 480 plus emblems. We've got the stat of limit break 1 plus the same emblems as the previous level, and then limit break 2 plus emblems. So I'm working with a few conditions here. Those are, we're dealing with max attack path on this hero, so I went for every single attack node. Next, I had to make a calculation, which I'll show you the photos behind why I chose what I did, and that is that 1 level of attack or defense gives a stat increase of plus 1.575. So this is an average, and I'll show you what I was working with here. So looking at this hero here. So there's 1 level. It's a gain of 1, 1, and 3 for HP. To simplify this, I am working with mostly just attack and defense because they're weighted more evenly. HP is its own thing. I don't understand, or I don't know what the ultimate equation is for how they relate the different weighting of these stats. So to simplify it and actually allow myself to come up with an answer, I simplified those in terms of just choosing attack and defense and leaving HP out. So here you can see 1 more level, but now we're gaining 2 and 2, so it's not equivalent per level. Here's another one, 2, 2, and 3. This is also a newer hero and a hero that has much higher stats. So then I looked at Jove on the 4th ascension, thinking, does it change as you get further in the ascensions? 5 levels is 8 which I forget what that comes out to exactly, but somewhere around 1.5. Then I looked at an older hero for 11 levels, which I should have just done 10 to make the math easier, but now we're under 1.5. So something this showed me is that not only do newer heroes start with higher base stats at level 1.1, they also gain more stats per level on average, which is very interesting. Because why not just make the base stats account for the difference? And maybe that's because they're trying to make all this stuff look less shocking than it is. If you look at the base stats and you're like, yeah, it's a bit higher, but not crazy higher, but you're gaining more levels, more stats per level than you normally would, that's a way to hide these boosts. I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining things, but that is my theory at this point. And then we look at another one. This is the newer hero now, 11 levels, the same 11 levels, and now he's getting 17, 18, and 33, which is, quite a bit higher when you think of how many levels there are across maxing out a hero. Here's another new hero, 19, and even more new, 19, 18, and 32. And then not even newer, but pretty close, 19, 20, and 33. So again, I kind of just took an average. That's where I came up with this 1.575. It's a bit higher than it was for some heroes, and it's also a bit lower than it was for other heroes. So again, it's very hard to come up with this number perfectly because it's different per hero. And I just thought that's interesting to point out. Stat boosts appear to be related to the number of nodes chosen. I think I actually disproved this. I was thinking this because when you look at emblems, ignore that one actually. That was, I forgot to erase that. Some minor mistakes and rounding. Rounding is for sure in here. Mistakes I don't think, but as someone with a scientific background, I want to just point that out. I think I've done a good job here, but anyways, there is that possibility. And then I want to give a quick shout out to the Heimdall bot online that has been created by Thor and friends. I use that for some of the data for this, so I just wanted to give them a little shout out. All right, so let's get into this here. Starting at 480, we have stats of 842, 793, and 1406. Okay. As we add emblems, max attack path, we're going up to 972, 854, and 1514. So the green numbers above those ones I just read are the difference between these two levels. So you're either going down 130 as you go to the regular 480, or you're going up 130 as you go to the 480 plus emblems. Obviously, the difference with emblems versus a limit break is that you are choosing which stats you're increasing. You're not increasing all of them, which I think was a really smart way of handling how do you level a hero. The challenge as the company is how do you level a hero past the point they're at, right? They need people to pick, they need new resources in the game for people to go after, because there's going to be a leveling off of the previous resources as more people ascend heroes. That's the whole reason behind these limit breaks and the second limit breaks, and why they didn't care that people were opposed to it, because they knew that to continue making the money that they wanted to make, they needed to have a new thing that's going to drive a new dimension of spending. All right. So it's very hard to say what the level increase there is because if you look at it for attack, it's going to look like more levels. If you look at it for defense, it's going to look like fewer levels. And like I mentioned before, we're leaving HP out. So what I did here is I looked at, I took this 130, which is the total attack gain from emblems, divided it by the 1.575, which is the amount of attack gained on average per level. And that tells you how many levels from the perspective of attack you have increased. So I then did the same with defense and averaged them because, again, with emblems, you're selectively boosting stats. You're not boosting stats across the board like you are for limit breaks. Okay, so we'll look at that in a second. Going up to the first limit break. So from 480 plus emblems to limit break 1, again with the same emblems, we're going up 67 to 1039, 64 to 918, and 119 up to 1633. So you can see that this is much more even. Attack and defense are weighted pretty evenly. Overall, HP is its own thing. Here, it's roughly double, a little bit less than. And then as we look at the second limit break, so the first limit break looks pretty reasonable. You're gaining 67 attack. Okay, that's an increase you can feel, but it's nothing crazy. 64 and 119. Okay, they got very greedy with the second limit break, and it's really easy to see how much higher they went, which it looks like is roughly double. So they decided limit break 2 is going to be roughly twice as powerful as limit break 1. So again, if we look at it from the levels perspective, we're just going up from 85 to 90. We're just gaining 5 more levels. We've done that before. It's nothing unfamiliar. But you're gaining double the stats that you were before. So that's why I kind of feel like there is some intentional psychological trickery going on, because once you see the level gains for each of these things, if that's the way they introduce it, if that's how many levels you're adding, people would be like, this is way too much. So they pick a nice small round number and they hide the rest of it behind that. And yes, you can say, well, these stats are looking pretty high, but how many people are going to do the math that I'm doing here? Almost no one, because it's a huge pain in the ass. That's why I think this video is so interesting and worthwhile. All right, so difference of 135, 124, and 225 now. Okay, so let's look at the level gains. The whole point of the video here is to visualize how many levels is that actually. If you see any mistakes that I've made, please do call that out in the comments. I checked myself pretty carefully after the fact, but I'll say it one more time. I am not a mathematician. This is a bit out of my area of expertise, and it's possible that I didn't account for something. I don't think that's the case, but I just want to mention that. All right, levels gained. So from Emblems, attack is gaining 82 levels. The stat boost that you're getting is equivalent to what you would get from 82 more levels, okay? Defense is only 38, so if we look at the average, 61. So the introduction of Emblems added the equivalent of an additional 61 levels on top of that hero. So that's taking a 480 and leveling them to, what would that be, 141? Okay, I think they did it well with Emblems because you're only going up to plus 18, plus 19. They're making it look a lot smaller than it is. So again, psychologically, you're like, yeah, that's not that, 18's not that big of a number, 19's not that big. It's higher, but I can live with this. But it's equivalent to roughly 60 levels, with the assumptions that I'm making to calculate this. As we switch to limit break 1, 40 levels, okay? And I did the same thing for attack and defense and averaged it. So roughly 42 levels. Obviously, you can see where I'm going with this because all the numbers are here right in front of you, but follow me for a second. This was more modest. They were like, okay, Emblems added a lot. You know they're doing this calculation. When you can see that there's little subtleties in terms of newer heroes level up more stats per level than older heroes, in addition to having higher base stats. Like, there's a lot of nuance here and a lot of somewhat complicated math going on despite the simplistic appearance, okay? So 42 levels. They're like, maybe we'll dial it back a little bit. And I think that was reasonable. It obviously had a huge impact on the game. When you get to the second limit breaks, which felt much different. I don't know if you guys have felt this, but the addition of the ether abilities, some of which are very strong, like 4 turns of taunt. Like when you take a hero like Forces from the new Untold Tales, he only has 3-turn taunt, but he gets to start the match with 4 turns, which is better than his own special skill even is. Some go in the opposite direction, but that's just one example of an elite taunt hero right now and what he's gaining from this. And then when you look at the significance of the stat boosts here, it's wild. And it goes to show why facing those double limit broken teams is so crazy, because you're fighting a team that has, on average, 82 levels higher than you if you're at a single limit break. If you're at just plus 18, you're facing a hero that is, on average, 120 plus levels higher than you. So they never added 6-star or 7-star heroes to the game officially, but you can see here we have those. Double limit broken heroes are approximately equivalent. Again, this is more complicated math. I didn't go this direction because then you have to look at what is the stat average across a 3-star hero to a 4-star to a 5-star, see what those numbers are. It changes over time as heroes are newer or older, so that was just going to be a whole nother can of worms I didn't want to open. But I think it's safe to make the argument that a double limit broken hero is much more like a 6-star or 7-star hero, especially when you add ether abilities, because, for example, a 5-star hero versus a 3-star hero, the 5-star special skill is almost always going to be better. So it's not just a stat boost you get, but it's a overall improved experience, I guess you could say, in terms of special skill quality, stat quality, all that kind of stuff as you move up. It's not true across the board, but on average that is true. So yeah, that would be the case with a 7-star hero, right? They have to have something that makes them better than the 5-star hero besides stats, and that's essentially what the ether taunt is. So what this game has done is they've created a paid way to just make your heroes better, tougher, stronger, higher than the other heroes in the game so that you can win more easily, and you pay for that. So I hate to say it this simply, but the double limit break system on average is just a pay to win system. Is it a guarantee? No. But when you look at the amount of levels you're gaining, they're making it look like, level 90, it's only 10 levels higher than level 80, but in reality, it's about 120 levels higher. So tell me if that feels fair. Yes, these games need to make money to survive, and, for some reason, mobile gaming leans in this direction, some games more heavily than others, for paying to win. You buy a better hero, you buy better stats, all that kind of stuff. I think there's ways to do this and not have it be so catastrophic, but I feel like these double limit breaks have created a pretty catastrophic system, and this highlights that for me. So interesting to see these number gains. I mean, when you add all this together, emblems and first and second limit breaks, you are closing in on 200 levels higher than a standard 480. And it's accelerating. Not consistently. If we go from 80 to 40, okay, we actually went down, but then we doubled after that, at least in terms of what the second limit break is in comparison to the first limit break. So I think that's enough talking. I think I've made the point. I could kind of go on about this for longer potentially, but I think to try to keep it as concise as possible, we can stop there. I really want to know your thoughts on this. Again, this is something that I wanted to talk about because I haven't seen it talked about anywhere else. It's possible someone's done this on the forum or something like that. I haven't been as active on there, but I haven't seen anything in line groups or around YouTube or anywhere of someone doing something similar to this. So I'm very curious to know what you guys think. Does this bother you more? I think it should. Not that my intent is to bother people, but I think when you're presenting something honestly that is a little troubling, it comes across that way, even though that is not my intent, right? They're the ones who made the decision to handle things this way, and I'm just the person who is, don't kill the messenger, as they say. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, please. I am very curious. And yeah, one other thing that's interesting to point out is, power creep in this game has been a topic of conversation for a long time. In a lot of ways, Gemstone Legends has remained immune to power creep in that some of the older heroes are actually still some of the best heroes. They have done a really good job keeping an even pool over time. They did release one faction of heroes. I forget what the word they use is, but essentially a faction of heroes that is stronger than the others, but you have to level them differently. They take different materials. You know, they're kind of more expensive overall, which maintains their rarity a bit more. But overall, they have done a fantastic job with not having the ridiculous power creep that that you see in Empires and Puzzles. And for example, they do have their equivalent of a limit break system. However, you can farm those materials. Whereas in Empires and Puzzles, you get one recurring quest and that's it, you know, and that's not even enough for one hero. You can farm these things all day long if you want to. And that allows you to what they call awaken these different heroes. So in that sense, I think they've done a really fantastic job with keeping things equitable. And then when you look at Empires and Puzzles, you're like, man, why do you have to call 120 levels 10 levels only? Like, what's the deal with that? So yeah, please share your thoughts below. We're gonna end the video here. If you found this helpful, please like the video and subscribe. It helps other people find it. It helps the channel. I really appreciate the support. So if you enjoy the content, couple quick clicks and that's all I ask for. And that's that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.